Let's take a look at the Bennett family contracts that we worked on yesterday in class. There are a lot of contracts that are part of this story, and hopefully, you were able to identify some of them. Okay, let's start off with the first paragraph. Mr. and Mrs. Lester Bennett of Bethlehem have four children: Sam, little Lester, Mabel, and Michael. They were awakened on the morning of September 13th, 2014, by the paper boy who had overslept and wasn't very quiet in his rush to make his rounds. Mrs. Bennett stomped downstairs to get the newspaper. While doing this, she found on the doorstep a bird cage with her neighbor's canary and a note attached. Please take care of me for the week while my owners, her neighbors, are away. So far, her day was starting off just great. The contracts in this paragraph would be, first of all, Mr. and Mrs. Lester Bennett. You may not think of marriage as a contract, but technically it is a legal contract. And we will get more into the contract of marriage later on in the course. But because two people have shared assets when they get married, it is considered to be a legal contract. The next one, the paper boy who had overslept. The Bennetts have a contract with the local newspaper. They pay for the newspaper, and every morning it is delivered to their house. I have please take care of me for the week while my owners are away. The neighbor's canary. I have that highlighted, and I have it highlighted in blue. The reason why I have it highlighted in blue is that we are going to start learning about offers today. And this is not technically a contract, it is an offer. The Bennetts have not officially agreed to take care of the canary for the week. The neighbors just put it out there. And so, therefore, it's only an offer. We'll talk more about offers later on. Next paragraph. Mabel and Michael rushed through breakfast and ran to the corner only to find they had missed the school bus. They quickly returned home, and Mother angrily agreed to drive them to school. During this confusion, Mr. Bennett, smart man that he was, sneaked out the back door to have a quiet breakfast at the local donut shop on his way to the office. Two contracts in this paragraph. Having breakfast at the local donut shop would be a contract. It's a minor contract, a very small contract, but it is indeed a contract. He went to the local donut shop with money. They served him breakfast and he paid for it. He has an employment contract with his office. We will also talk about employment contracts later on during the semester. Okay, moving right along. Mrs. Bennett tried to start her car, but the motor wouldn't turn over. She ran across the street to the Millers to ask if she could borrow their car. When they realized her frame of mind, they said yes immediately. As she dropped the kids off at school, she said, "Thank goodness they're gone for the day." But she was only to return home to more excitement. Sam, who had been working at the giant supermarket by day and attending Northampton at night, had purchased a motorcycle. Since business had been slow, he was laid off 2 weeks ago and had missed the last payment to the Speedy Motorcycle Company. Mr. Slow, the owner of the company, was at the Bennett's door talking to Sam and threatening to sue if he didn't get paid. Mrs. Bennett calmed him down. Okay, contracts. Borrowing the car from the Millers, even though you may not think of that as a contract, it is because both parties agree to something. There's an offer. There is hey, can I borrow your car? There is acceptance, yes, and there is something of consideration. The fact that the Millers allowed Mrs. Bennett to borrow their car, that would be the consideration. So even borrowing something is considered to be a contract. You may not think of it because you're not paying for it, but there is something of consideration or value that is in part of this agreement. So that makes it a contract. Sam has an employment contract with Giant, and he also has a contract with Northampton. You may not think of going to college as a contract, but you are paying tuition, a lot of money to attend college, wherever it may be, and in return, they are providing you with an education. Sam purchased a motorcycle. That's a contract. He also has a contract with the Speedy Motorcycle Company. And the Speedy Motorcycle Company loaned Sam the money to purchase the motorcycle, and Sam was paying them off month by month. Unfortunately, he lost his job, so he fell behind in a payment, and Mr. Bennett or Mr. Slow was upset. He is engaged in a contract with the Speedy Motorcycle Company. Okay, next one. Thoroughly disgusted, she decided to take the Lanta bus to the Palmer Mall. To add insult to injury, when she arrived at the Gap, she found that she had left her credit card at home, so she paid for her purchases by check. She had lunch at Carrabba's outside of the mall. As she was leaving, a man approached her offering a wristwatch for sale. He told her a story that he had just bought an odd lot from a wholesaler, Shifty Sam, and she could have it real cheap. She smelled a rat, so she told him to get lost. Okay, again, Lanta bus to the Palmer Mall is a contract, a minor contract, simple contract. She is boarding the bus. She is paying them some money, and they are agreeing to take her to the Palmer Mall. At Gap, she is purchasing clothing or some items, and she's paying for them by check. Lunch at Carrabba's, same thing. It's a simple contract. She pays for food, they serve her, and it is a contract. The man who is approaching her, offering her a wristwatch, that is only an offer. Okay, she did not accept that offer. She told him to get lost. In order for a contract to be made or effective, one of several elements is there has to be offer, but there also has to be acceptance. So there was an offer to sell the wristwatch, but Mrs. Bennett did not accept it. Okay, last segment. She stopped in at Home Depot to renew her service agreement for another 2 years on her washing machine. Then she decided to treat herself to a taxicab ride home and avoid the workers' rush on the bus. When she arrived home, the phone was ringing. Okay, the two contracts in here are renewing her service agreement with the Home Depot and the taxicab ride home. Next paragraph. Little Lester, who graduated from high school in June and decided to do his own thing, was living and working in Allentown. He called to give Mrs. Bennett his new address, as he had moved out of the Memory Motel into a small apartment on West Lake Drive. Working in Allentown would be an employment contract, and living in Allentown in a small apartment on West Lake Drive, that is a contract as well. That is a lease. And finally, the last paragraph. After dinner, Mr. and Mrs. Bennett sat down in the den, which would be the family room, or the grand room, to watch their new plasma TV. When the doorbell rang, they realized they had forgotten their appointment with their friendly insurance man from the Cook agency, Snidely Whiplash, who was on the scene with a new insurance policy for Mr. Bennett to sign. After reading it carefully, he signed on the dotted line. Mr. Whiplash left, and the Bennetts decided to get away from it all and went to see the latest movie, It's a Beautiful Life. Okay, two final contracts. New insurance policy would be a contract, and going to see the latest movie. whether they saw it in a movie theater or whether they streamed it on one of their devices, it would still be considered a contract because someone is providing that service of the movie for them to watch, whether it's in a theater or from one of their devices, and they are paying for it. Okay, I hope that this activity helped you out with being able to identify contracts. Again, I did not expect you to be able to identify all of them, but I'm hoping that you were able to identify at least some of them. This is kind of a wacky story. I found it on the internet. I think it was, I got it from a website somewhere in the United Kingdom. So it kind of has that like British twist to it. It is a little goofy, but I've been using it for quite a while because there are a lot of really good examples of contracts. Okay, everyone, have a great day, and you can continue with the next activity in Schoology.